In order to build any Chrome extension, we need to rely on something called the Chrome developer's documentation, and that's found at developer.chrome.com. And essentially what it is the documentation for everything Chrome extension related. It's the single source of truth for anything extension related, whether that's Chrome APIs or publishing on the Chrome Web Store. So as you can see on the documentation page, if we hit the Start Building button, we get a bunch of information about different Chrome related development stuff. And we're going to head over to the Extensions tab, and there's a bunch of intro documentation that you can go through to understand the basic building blocks of Chrome extensions. But for us, we're going to focus on something called the manifest file, which is how you actually tell the Chrome browser what your Chrome extension is supposed to be doing and what JavaScript, HTML, and CSS files compose the extension itself. And that sounds like a lot to take in, but it's actually very straightforward. So in order to begin, we're going to head down to this manifest file format documentation, and we'll see that essentially what a manifest file is a JSON formatted manifest file. That's JavaScript object notation. And this single file enables us to explain to the Chrome browser how to understand what our Chrome extension is. And in order to demonstrate that, I'm going to head over to VS Code. We're going to go to File, and we're going to open a folder. On my desktop, I already have a folder ready called a timer extension folder, but you can use any folder where you want this manifest file to be located. And I'm just going to select that folder inside of VS Code to open it up. And we'll see inside of my folder, currently I just have a single little clock icon image in there and nothing else. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call it manifest.json. And we're going to initialize our JSON object. And then inside of this manifest file, the first thing we're going to specify is the manifest version, which is 3. And the manifest version just tells the Chrome browser which manifest style to use, because depending on the manifest version, you have different fields available inside of the manifest file. And as a rule of thumb, you always want to use the newest version, because older versions end up being deprecated. For the name field, we're going to put in the name of our Chrome extension. So in our case, it's going to be called timer extension, but you can name it whatever you want. And then in the version field, you can put in any string you want to represent the versioning of your Chrome extension. So for example, we can do something like 1.0.0. And you can really version it however you want. And now that we have the version, the very last thing that we'll add in is a description. And for the description, I'll just say something like, hello, Chrome world. And with that, our very first Chrome extension is actually ready to be loaded into the browser. And the way you actually load it into the browser is you go to Chrome://extensions, and you'll see that we have this extensions page. And by default, developer mode is turned off, but all you have to do is toggle it on, and we're going to do what we called a load unpacked extension. And then on the desktop, you can see where my folder is located with the manifest file. We're just going to select that entire folder. And once we select that entire folder, you can see that the extension does get loaded in. We have the name of our extension, the version string, and its description. And then this ID that's automatically generated for each extension. And in order to spruce it up a bit, we can already add another field called the icons field. So what we'll do is we'll add in that icons field. And this is a slightly different than all the other fields because it actually takes in an object. And inside of this object, it has a field which is a string number like 16, which takes another string that points to an image to be used as the icon. In our case, we're just going to use icon.png. And then we also have 48. We can pass in the same icon again. And then we can actually copy this one more time and do 128. All these numbers represent a square icon. So this is 16 by 16, 48 by 48, 128 by 128. And you'll notice that we use the same icon for all of these different sizes. And that's because Chrome will automatically scale whatever your PNG is to the correct size that it needs to use. So if we head back to our extension and we hit this refresh button, we can see that our icon has now been loaded into the extension. And you can actually see it inside of this extension's little dropdown inside of the toolbar.